Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network. You can find all our shows on Spotify, iTunes and wherever you download your podcast. And for about the fifth week running, we're in one of the featured podcasts on Spreaker as well. So be sure to check us out there amongst a few other really good shows. But this week I'm joined by the pig to my Prime Minister, Dallas King. How are you?
I'm not sure if I'm going to accept that, to be honest. I mean, what the hell? Where did that come from? Jeez, oh.
And the princess to my devilish scheme to shame the UK public about technology, Kim Morrison. How are you, Kim?
I'm good, thank you. And I think, that's a better introduction than Dallas got.
One of us had to be the pig, and I could only have lost you, Kim, for the podcast forever. Dallas, he's been here for 100 episodes so far, so I can slag him off.
If you see me in that way, they were getting onto a very sort of striking Viper situation going on.
Absolutely. So, in a week's time, the Edinburgh Film Festival will be launching once again, and all three of us will be there in one capacity or another. So, Kim, this is going to be your first time going to the film festival as a member of the press. You're an Edinburgh born and bred girl. How are you feeling sort of a week out from your first film festival as a member of the press?
Yeah, it's quite exciting. I don't think I've ever actually gone to anything anyway as a non-press person. So, it's cool to just kind of see all the different stuff that they have on offer. I kind of usually only hear about the really big things and things that are in the news and stuff. So I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun.
And Dallas, you're sort of an old hat at this one. How are you feeling sort of for here you go again for the film festival experience?
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it. As soon as the programme was announced, I was there rushing over to the Belmont, picking up my physical copy, getting my highlighter out, and then trying to work out how I'd be able to see all the things that I want to see in as little time as possible. So yeah.
Yeah, that's always the case. It's juggling it. Like, I've got my preliminary sort of schedule all drawn up. I'm going to see this, and this. But then when sort of events kick in and interview opportunities, it's like, right, this needs to turn around again. I need to see this. Right, I'm going to have to go see a public screening of this. It's always quite fun. You never sort of know what you're actually going to watch until the actual day itself. But I'm really excited. It's a pretty exciting program. And again, sort of 42% of the film festival itself is going to be sort of films directed by women, which is fantastic. So I've kind of, I'd love to hear what you guys have picked out as sort of your three movies. I'm sure we can do a bit of a round robin, one each at a time, and what yous are kind of looking forward to seeing at the film festival. And I wonder if there'll be any crossover or people out there that are kind of unsure what they're going to see. Maybe they're going to be inspired by what you guys are picking. So, Kim, this is your first time. What is the movie that's maybe got you excited for the festival?
So I sort of gravitated towards the more horror side of things, but the one I think I'm most excited about is called The Furies, which is it's apparently a modern take on the 80s slasher, which is great for me because I love 80s horror films. It's about this woman who wakes up in the middle of a forest and there's men in masks just chasing her, and it just sounds quite terrifying. And I read that apparently they used over 100 litres of blood while they were filming it, so it sounds right up my street.
Yeah, there's quite a few things. I remembered when I was reading sort of through the programme, and it was gothic horror, female horror. I was like, oh my god, it seems like that they know that you're coming for the first time and want to put on a show for you. With certainly a film like that, it sounds like they've got your attention.
Yep.
So Dallas, how do you follow up 100 litres of blood?
Well, I'm going to stick with the horror theme, although maybe a slightly different take on horror, and I'm going with The Dead Don't Die by Jim Jarmusch.
Yeah, so that film's been getting a bit of a mixed reception out of Cannes, but what is it that's got you excited for this one?
Well, it was the cast more than anything. I mean, Bill Murray, who, technically has already done a zombie movie in Zombieland, but Adam Driver is very sort of laconic. I thought he was great in Jarmusch's Patterson, so I'm very excited to see him. His line reading of ghouls sold me, but it was Tilda Swinton as a Scottish mortician with a samurai sword. I was like, I'm there, I don't care, I'm there, I'm queuing, I don't care, I want to see this film. And she spends a lot of time up in Nairn, and yeah, she definitely seems to have got the Scottish accent down on this one. It's going to be one that will be praised by Scots rather than what the hell was that she was doing. I think she's gonna she's going to do people with this one proud, I think. And yeah, I think it's going to be a completely different take on the zombie movie, but one that I'm certainly looking forward to seeing. I know it's got mixed reviews, but I kind of dig Jarmusch's style. I thought Only Lovers Left Alive was fantastic, so I'm interested to see what he does with the zombie genre instead of the vampire genre this time.
Yeah, like there's only one way I can follow that up, and that's not with one Swinton, but with two Swintons, and that's going to be A24's The Souvenir. I'm really looking forward to this one. So Honor Swinton Brine plays Julia, a struggling young filmmaker who's knocked off her creative path when she falls in love with the wrong man in a bleak 1980s London. So Joanna Hogg's semi-autobiographical feature also stars Tilda Swinton as Julie's mum. So I am an absolute sucker for movies about white middle class woe, and I think this movie absolutely seems to do that in almost 100 litres worth of it. So I'm really excited for this one, and I think the fact that there's going to be a sequel as well has me very curious about how that's going to kind of all fit in as well. So yeah, one I'm really excited for. So Kim, back to you. You know, we've had blood, vampire, zombies, and two Swintons. How do you follow that up? What are you adding to the festival lineup?
Well, my second choice was actually The Dead Don't Die as well. So, because zombie movies like proper terrify me. They're really scary, and I always think like a zombie comedy kind of thing's a bit easier to deal with. So, yeah, that was my second choice as well. I'm very excited about that. I was watching the trailers for it today, and it looks hilarious and a bit disgusting in a good measure.
Before sort of the first film of the festival kind of kicks off, this is going to be sort of shown early, sort of the press and industry on the first full day. How do you sort of feel that you're going to be sitting there like with your little press pass, with your little selfie on it, sitting there watching that kind of movie like that? How I think it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. What's it going to be like for you as a horror fan to watch a horror movie at such an early time of the day? Is that how you like to watch a horror movie, or do you prefer it sort of like nighttime with like a packed kind of audience?
I mean, I will watch horror any time. I remember going to see The Hills Have Eyes 2 at about 10:30 in the morning on like a Monday once, which is not a good life choice. But no, I think it'll be exciting to get to watch something that kind of early. Like I know it's been shown other places and things, but just to kind of get in there before a lot of people in general, and just get to kind of form like your own opinions about it, and rather than, because I tend to just like read a lot of stuff about horror, you can maybe go in with a slightly coloured opinion of things before you see them. So it'll be exciting to just go in and view it quite fresh and just enjoy it. So yeah, it'll be amazing.
How does it feel? How smug do you think you'll be on a scale of 1 to 10 that you'll get to see a bunch of these horror films maybe months or years ahead of some people? How are you going to be about that?
Yeah, I think I think I'll be quite smug about it. It's quite, I always feel like I miss out on a lot of like new horror that comes out. I tend to watch a lot of old stuff over and over again, so it'll be quite interesting to actually be like, oh yeah, when that comes out in the cinema, I'll be like, I saw that months ago, it was amazing. So yeah, no, I will. Smug mode will be activated, definitely.
So last week we compared you to Billy Lord in Booksmart, and I think this week you'll be channeling Arnold Rimmer from Red Dwarf in the smug scale. So there's our Kim Morrison comparison for this week. So Dallas, how will you follow up something like that? You know, we've got two people immediately kind of all in for that film. What are you wanting to see, or is it going to be The Souvenir for you?
No, I'm going with a Korean action film called Unstoppable. And it's the story of a mild-mannered fish vendor who turns to his violent past when his wife is kidnapped by sex traffickers. I'm a sucker for a good sort of Korean action film. Any sort of like Indonesian, Korean sort of action films. You know, the raids were fantastic. We had Snowpiercer a couple of years ago, and this stars Ma Dong-suk, who is... He was one of the breakouts for me from Train to Busan. He was the big burly guy who was basically wanting to protect his wife and unborn child on the train, and he had the acting chops and the physical presence to be a real sort of threat. And I think he's going to deliver one of those sort of potentially sort of old boy breakout performances and become a real sort of star that could potentially break through to the US and UK as well, I think. So this is going to be one of the sort of late night sort of action films at the festival. So again, yeah, it would probably be one which I end up seeing. I think it is actually on at 9 o'clock in the morning for the press screening. So it's going to be one of those ones where you go, okay, I've just got to go in. But, at least it's not 8:30 in the morning for Suspiria, which you had to go through for the London Film Festival. So
Yeah, that was an experience. So if South Korean films are your jam, Dallas, and horror movies is yours, Kim, stories about white women are mine. And I've gone with Jasmine Moffare's Firecrackers. So it's a film about a pair of feisty teenagers who dream of escaping Canada to the bright lights of New York. Actually, they sound a bit like you, Dallas. And Lou and Chantal have been saving money, working as chambermaids, but after Chantal's ex abuses her, they plan revenge. Cue debauchery and vandalism, but this threatens their plans. So Firecrackers sounds definitely like my kind of jam, but it's also appealing because it's like completely made by an all-women crew and a cast of unknowns. So this sort of feels like one of those film festival movies that you got to go see at a film festival because you might never get the chance to actually catch it. So this one really appeals to me, and I'm really interested to see how this one all comes together. I've seen quite a few films lately where it's all about that sort of double female kind of pairing, and I think this one could maybe follow in that line of something like Booksmart or Never Going Back. So, Kim, what's your third choice going to be?
So my last one is a documentary actually called Memory, the Origins of Alien, and it's all about the making of Ridley Scott's Alien. And it says it features a treasure trove of insights, reflections and trivia, which sounds amazing. If there's something I love more than a horror film, it's a documentary about a horror film. I've got like a Nightmare on Elm Street one on DVD that's about 6 hours long, and it is the best thing in the world. So I'm very excited to watch a documentary about Alien. I just imagine it'll be awesome, like all the like concept art and the costumes and the effects and everything. It is blowing my geeky horror sci-fi alien mind. It just sounds brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I think it almost clashes in the press screenings with The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah.
But on like Tuesday, like the day of those two movies, I'm going to unfortunately be... So the only day I can't commit to being at the festival. So that's one film I'm really keen to sort of see in a public screening as well. I love Alien, sort of my Twitter handle kind of gives that away. But for me, like, there's a high standard been met for sort of alien documentaries on sort of the Blu-rays, for example. They have these hour-long documentaries about all the alien films. But I have a feeling this one's going to have to bring something new to the party, and to kind of get to the film festival, it must have something about it. So I'm with you. I'm really keen to see that one. What about yourself, Dallas? Are you interested in another documentary, perhaps, about Alien?
I am, and it was on my list, but because it's already been taken, I'll move swiftly on to the other documentary, which I had joint. I had a bit list of 5, just in case there was any crossover. And I'm going to go with the documentary What She Said, which is not a documentary about The Office starring Michael Scott, but it's actually a documentary about the art of Pauline Kael, the famous American film critic. And it sort of looks back at her career and her life and work, and also features sort of testimonies from various directors who've been influenced by her writing and also affected, I guess, by her potentially glowing or harsh criticisms as well. So I loved the documentary a couple of years ago on Roger Ebert, so I'm hoping for something similar. Just like a good horror documentary as well. I love a good documentary about sort of film writing and film criticism, so I'm very interested to see what they've got on this one.
Yeah, and I've kind of finished off mine by sort of doubling down on my sort of jam, as it were, by Hurt by Paradise. And it's directed and stars Greta Balamachinia, and she also stars in it as well. So she plays a character called Celeste, a young mother trying to carve out a career as a poet in modern day London. Meanwhile, her friend and neighbour Stella, played by co-writer Sadie Brown, dreams of being an actor but spends much of her time babysitting Celeste's son. So Greta herself is a poet and actor, so it sounds like it could be an interesting autobiographical piece. So it looks black and white. It has had comparisons with Frances Ha, which I love. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So yeah, I think we've got quite a lot of interesting films sort of between us to check out and see, and I'm sure we'll all be reviewing and writing for our respective websites and podcasting and doing different things, so there'll be plenty of places for us to sort of bring our kind of film viewing really to the fore during the festival. So I'm looking forward to it. So, one thing as well, before the film festival kicks off, last Wednesday, 2 weeks before it kicked off, Black Mirror returned for sort of its 5th series with sort of 3 mini-movies, Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2, Striking Vipers and Smithereens. But before we get into Season 5, I want to know what your guys' relationship is with Black Mirror and what you're feeling about it just now. So, Kim, how did you sort of come to watch Black Mirror, and what's your sort of relationship with the show?
Weirdly enough, I had just binge watched every episode about a month ago. I had seen the Christmas special when it was on the TV, however long ago that was, with like John Hamm, where it's like 3 mini stories in one, and really liked it. But I just sort of, I don't know, I just never went back and watched them, and I sort of made the effort about a month ago, and I don't know if I'd recommend watching that many episodes of Black Mirror in a row. Like, it does make you feel quite bleak afterwards. But yeah, I'm very fresh on them all because I just watched them all. And yeah, it's sort of my kind of thing. It feels a bit, some of them feel a bit horror-ish. They're just all a bit unsettling, and I quite like that they're all different stories, and yeah, they all just kind of tell their own little story, and everything's really quite different. So yeah, I really enjoy them. So I was very excited when even though it was only 3 episodes, I was quite sad about it, but I was very excited when I found out the new season was coming out.
What about for yourself, Dallas? What's your relationship with Black Mirror? Are you like Kim, you've just recently got into it and binged it, or have you been someone that's been there since the Channel 4 days?
I haven't been there since the very beginning. I think I sort of got into it around about, I think it was season 2, with the sort of it was the white bear sort of episode and stuff like that. So I think it was season 2, and then you sort of Be Right Back was the first one that I saw, and then sort of went back and saw the original first series on catch up on 4OD or something at the time. But then I've sort of kept up with it ever since it moved on to Netflix, and we got more content on it. And I thought there was certainly, I love the sort of takes on sort of technology and stuff like that, and the fact that every single episode is completely different and can be completely different in tone and story and stuff like that, but there's always that current of technology is bad and it's going to kill us, essentially. So yeah, it's always something to keep an eye on. I mean, Terminator showed us that back in the 80s, but it's still true today.
Yeah, I was sort of the season before you. I kind of lucked out and kind of got into it quite early because I sort of loved Charlie Brooker's columns in The Guardian. His screen wipe, news wipe were sort of essential viewing in my house, and I loved his take on these sorts of things. So the idea of him writing a fictional TV series, sort of a sci-fi anthology, was something I just absolutely was so keen for. And I remember sort of watching that first episode where, sort of as we kind of mentioned in the introductions, where the premise of the first episode that they're showing to the world, if you watch it on Netflix, if you watch it for the first ever time, is the Prime Minister of the UK has to have sex with a pig so that the princess of the UK doesn't die. And I just found that such a bold concept. I can see why it would be polarising, it would put people off, but I was immediately hooked in. I don't know what that says about me, but I just thought it was such raw TV. I thought it was well written, it was edgy, it wasn't something that felt kind of exploitative, it felt just bold, and I loved it. And sort of I kind of followed through that sort of first 2 seasons, and I loved it, and sort of I just loved the edge that the show had. And then when it went to Netflix, I was like, oh, that'll be brilliant, kind of see what they do with a bit of budget. People all around the world will now get access to the show. And I sort of felt that the show lost its edge a little bit. It became sort of too long sometimes, drawn out. I think that there was too much emphasis on celebrities getting involved in the show. It would be like, oh yeah, that's that actor or that actress, and I would be sort of aware that was them the whole time. And yeah, there was always some great episodes, but I just felt the quality and the consistency was just never as good as sort of the Channel 4 days. And I genuinely haven't had the time yet to sort of play Bandersnatch, the play-as-you-go interactive episode. I don't know if I take it you guys have. What's your sort of take on that? I know Bandersnatch kind of split a bit of opinion. Did you guys enjoy it?
I think that was the first one I actually watched when I kind of went back in, and that was the reason, because it was the newest one at the time. And I've sort of spoke to people afterwards, and they've been like, oh, did you get this ending, or did this happen? And I was like, no, I literally got the ending over and over again when I murdered someone. Like, I could not escape murdering this person. I just ended up in prison for it. Like, whatever I did, I just ended up. So I actually like quit after about an hour and a half because I was sick of watching this person die, basically. So it was quite fun, but I don't know what it says about me that the choices I made just constantly ended in murder. But it's quite interesting. It was a cool concept, but yeah, I definitely didn't get all the possible options that I could have got.
What cereal did you pick at the start, Kim?
Oh, I can't remember what were the choices again.
Was it cornflakes? Was one of them?
Frosty. Was it not Frosties or Sugar Puffs or something like that? No.
I think Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was Frosties because I'm not the biggest fan of Sugar Puffs. So I think it was Frosties. That's maybe where it all went downhill.
What did you go for, Dallas? What was your pick of cereal, or did you even play Bandersnatch?
Oh, I played Bandersnatch, all right. I played it constantly. It was in that sort of sweet spot where it came out just after New Year, but before I had to go back to work, and so therefore I played it for hours and hours, just doing every possible different sort of combination of things to try and get new endings and stuff like that. I mean, I loved those sort of choose your own adventure novels when I was a kid, to the point where you would leave like your thumb on the page before you were going to the next bit, and then you'd have a peek, and if it was a bad thing, you go, oh no, well I never left the page, so therefore I technically never went there. So you then continue, you're cheating your own way. And there was some sort of cheats in this game as well, but I just thought it was a really sort of bold, interesting concept and an interesting way to use the sort of streaming service. And it's the fact that you'd leave it a couple of days and you go back in and it still would have remembered all your choices and stuff like that. So I thought that was great. I thought the story behind it, set in the 80s, allowed for a lot of great stuff. But I mean, my overriding Bandersnatch memory is actually a funny story about work, where I work in a library, so I, for a laugh, a joke, put that people were coming into the library asking for a Bandersnatch, because in the TV show there is a copy of this book. It's not a real book, but people thought it was a real book, and then they were coming in looking for it, and it was meant to be a joke. But then, of course, by the time I get back to work, the local paper had run it as a story that it was true, because they never fact checked it, so it was essentially fake news. And then it ended up going like all the way up to, like, I think it was the Times newspaper ran that story, and I was like, oh my god, it's like, yes, I'm not sure if Charlie Brooker ever got asked about it, but yeah, I basically started the story that people were asking, that believed Bandersnatch was real. So yeah, I created a bit of fake news, and well, this is technology doing its thing. You put it on Twitter and then people treat it as the truth and whatever. So yeah, technology is bad, people. Don't trust everything you read.
So that's just now going to just cut out all your opinions for the rest of the show because you are fake news and spreading rubbish. So kind of season 5 got announced. There was sort of the preview trailer, and we had stars like Anthony Mackie, Miley Cyrus, Andrew Scott, which we know Kim has strong opinions on based on our Fleabag episode. What did you guys think when you sort of saw the preview for this season? Were you excited? What was your anticipation levels like, Kim?
Yeah, I was quite excited. I think it's just trying to figure out like how they're going to use the technology. Like there was the bit in the trailer for Striking Vipers was the guy putting the thing on the side of his temple, which is a staple in Black Mirror. Just put something inside your head and your eyes glaze over. But it was like, oh, we've seen that before, but how are they going to do it different? And yeah, it just looked. It looked interesting. It was like a cool mix of people. Like I know, I kind of agree with what you said about maybe like overusing celebrities and stuff. But I was quite interested to see like Miley Cyrus and what the hot priests were going to get up to in these episodes. So yeah, I think the trailer is quite good at giving you a wee bit of a glimpse, but not giving too much away. I really had no idea what was going to happen in any of the episodes going in, which I think is the perfect way to go into a Black Mirror episode.
What did you think, Dallas? You're sort of in the middle of binging something like Killing Eve at the moment. How did you feel when you saw the trailer? Were you excited to put Killing Eve to a side for 3 hours, or were you like, oh, do I have to?
Well,
what was your?
I remember when Bandersnatch sort of dropped, and I'd heard the rumors that Miley Cyrus had recorded an episode, and then it's like, oh, she's not in this. So then, what's happening? And then sort of kind of forgot about it, and then it was like, the trailer sort of dropped out of nowhere, and it's like, oh yeah, no, we're getting 3 new episodes in a couple of weeks, and it's like, oh great, that's fantastic. And then it's like, oh yeah, but I've got so many other things to watch. But luckily my wife and I do enjoy watching Black Mirror, so we actually ended up just binging all 3 in one night, so it only took one evening out of our time. But I was glad to be able to watch them all quickly, and yeah, get back to the Phoebe Waller-Bridge binging session, which I've been on in the past month or so.
So we'll go through them one by one and get kind of your reaction to them. So Striking Vipers is the first one up. So we'll kind of keep it a bit vague as we can, but ideally go check out these 3 episodes. I'm sure if you're listening to a podcast with Black Mirror in the title that you've probably checked them out already, but do check them out because we'll probably spoil some of it. So Striking Vipers, 2 estranged college friends reunite in later life and trigger a series of events that could alter their lives forever. So in this one, 2 kind of college mates, as we kind of mentioned, sort of get back together, they play a video game, as Kim describes. Something goes on the side of the head, eyes glaze over, and they find themselves immersed in a video game. But what happens is that they have feelings for each other and begin to have a sort of sexual relationship within the video game. So, Kim, what was your take on Striking Vipers? It's the first one in, you've kind of been on this big binge. Did that continue the excitement, or did it sort of think, oh no, season 5 might not be the best?
I think episodes like Striking Vipers are like my favourite type of Black Mirror episode, where it's sort of exploring all the weird things that technology could do, but they don't necessarily have like a horrible ending. Like I felt like I had quite a happy ending, really. So yeah, I really liked this one. It was a bit sci-fi and a bit weird, but like, yeah, nothing particularly horrible happened to anyone. I thought it was a really cool concept. I don't think from the trailer at all I knew it was going to be about video games, and I think that feels like the kind of thing, like that kind of feels like the kind of way that video games could go. You know, it doesn't seem like too mad or out there or anything with like VR and everything that's happening. You feel like the kind of that would be the next stage, though I'm not sure why you'd want to play a fighting game and feel yourself getting beaten up. Like, that sounds terrible, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. I do like a mix of just a bit weird, but not like a horrible ending that makes you feel devastated when it's finished. So it was the kind of perfect sort of Black Mirror episode for me anyway.
Dallas, is this a perfect Black
Not
Mirror
a perfect
episode
one,
for you?
but no, I did enjoy it. I thought the performances from Anthony Mackie and and Abdul Mateen, I thought I'd seen him recently in a few things like Us, and he was like one of the few highlights of Aquaman for me. I thought he's got a real great screen presence, and I was excited to see what they would, be able to do together. I wasn't expecting them to be doing that, because that's the thing. It's like when you go into these episodes, you're like, okay, technology is bad. Something bad is going to happen, but you're not entirely sure what. And it has to be said that it went in a direction that I was not expecting. I mean, there's this whole distrust of technology that at one point I thought, there was going to be something bad, that the wife was going to find out and kill Anthony Mackie using a knife from the dishwasher, because it was like 3 times they kept showing this dishwasher, and it was like Chekhov's gun. It's like, if you show the dishwasher, something's going to happen with the dishwasher, but nothing ended up happening with the dishwasher. They went in a completely different way. So it's this sort of trying to second guess what's going on, but it was a very, very odd one. I mean, I've seen sort of people like putting up like Scrubs memes and stuff like that for the relationship between the two, and I thought it was good. But I have to be said, I was kind of, it's probably actually really weird to say, but I was waiting for the scene with the polar bear, to be honest. When they introduced that character in the game, I was thinking, oh god, something's going to happen with a polar bear. But what was it? And it's like, yeah, I mean, the line delivery was fantastic, but part of you is kind of going, oh, would have been interested to see it, but yeah, maybe not. What about yourself?
When your wife's been away in India so too long, when you're thinking, oh my god, I want to see a bear having sex. Dallas, dearie me. For me, I enjoyed this one. I thought it was the strongest of the bunch. I really liked sort of the idea where sometimes it's like technology is bad. I thought it had a lot to say sort of about gender, because they're two gay or bi men that are having sex, but one of them is a woman while one of them is a man. And I thought there was certainly a lot of interesting debate to be had there about sort of sexuality, online affairs. Is this something that is acceptable? Is this something that people will go, well, it's in the virtual world, it doesn't count? And I'm sure that there's been many a relationship soured by cyber sex or typing, these sorts of things. And I like that it kind of went sort of with an optimistic route, that they sort of had this open relationship by the end, and sort of they were able to have that second kid. And I kind of liked that it had that happy ending, and sort of it didn't sort of pack the emotional happiness that perhaps something like San Juniper did, which I think is one of the finest episodes of Black Mirror. But for me, I thought it was a nice one, and it had quite a lot to say. I think it did go on a little too long, at 60 minutes. I felt that if it was a little tighter, but it just sort of felt like this was sort of, say, something that was maybe aiming for that sort of like, oh, this is prestige TV in terms of what it's tackling. But I think in the past few years, I think even the poster sort of echoed Moonlight a little bit in my eyes. It just sort of didn't pack that much of a punch. Ultimately, I thought it was fine, had a nice little debate and discussion, well acted, but it did feel a little televisual, and yeah, it was fine. So that got followed up by Smithereens. So a cab driver with an agenda becomes the centre of attention on a day that rapidly spirals out of control when he kidnaps a work placement guy from sort of a social media company and looks to speak with its mysterious owner, played by Topher Grace. So this one stars Andrew Scott. Kim, you're a fan of him. What did you make of 67 minutes in a tight spot with Andrew Scott?
I mean, that's quite a loaded question. I really like this one as well. I think like Andrew Scott's a fantastic actor, and just he just kept like the tension up the whole time. Like you just believed that he was just like completely on the edge of just going absolutely insane the entire time. But I really liked how like a lot of I think most of the technology they sort of used in this episode, apart from maybe some of the stuff that the people were doing like on the social media company side, like all the kind of check and stuff they were doing, it all felt very like real. Like it was all just really about checking your phone too much and being on social media too much and sort of getting absorbed in that rather than paying attention to your real life. There was no like kind of dystopian edge to it. It very much just felt like something that could have happened like today to someone normal. And I think it was more sort of about Andrew Scott's character, of like him dealing with his like addiction to social media and kind of what it cost him, rather than necessarily like technology actually kind of setting out to do anything evil. I thought it was really emotional, and especially things that happened towards the end when he asks Billy Burr's character for like a favor right at the end. Like that was really sad. It was nice. I'm one of those people that likes a more like defined ending. Like I wanted to know exactly what happened at the end. Like when it just sort of like went to black, I was like, no, I need to know exactly what happened. But that's just me being weird. So no, I did like this one as well. But obviously, it was quite a sad ending for this one.
The kind of character's fate is left sort of ambiguous at the end. Kim, did you sort of have a thing where you think, I think this is what happened? What was your take?
I feel like with it being Black Mirror, probably both of them in the car got shot. Like that's what I was expecting to happen, or I thought it was gonna kind of show you that. So and I think the whole like Topher Grace's character kind of seemed to have a bit of an epiphany about his life, but then he just sort of at the end just seemed to go back into his like silent solitude, as if he was just like blocking it out and going back to normal, which was a bit bleak as well. So yeah, no, I think that's probably what happened, but I would have just liked a bit of confirmation that the ending wasn't as sad as I imagined it, just a little bit sad.
So Dallas, how did this one leave you feeling at the end? Were you happy, sad by the end of this one?
I think I shouted an audible expletive at the end when it kind of went to black and left it, where it was like, oh, it was almost like the ending of Inception. It's like, no, you can't tease us like that. And then of course Black Mirror does that thing where it goes to the credits, but then it goes back and then goes to the credits, and it sort of goes back, so you see a bit more of it, but it still doesn't have that thing. So it's got that sort of ending there where it's basically like, yeah, this was the most important, I'd say second most important day in this man's life, and yet for many, many people it just is something that appears, and then you scroll on because you're not really going, oh, okay, and then it disappears and no one really has any more interest in it. So, I mean, I really loved, this was my and Lucy's favourite episode of this series. We were both so utterly drawn in by Andrew Scott's performance. It was utterly fantastic, and I really mean, when we started watching it, Lucy was saying that she wasn't keen on this one because she didn't like Andrew Scott because he was a villain. I think we'd sort of watched like Sherlock and stuff like that, but she'd never really seen him in a sort of good role. But she was completely won over by him at the end and completely invested in his story. I thought his performance was superb, and I thought, yeah, it's a real sort of emotional sucker punch of an ending because you know something bad has happened to him, and then it's, I mean, if there's, this was one of those stories that's got a moral to it that, basically don't check your phone all the time because bad things can happen and stuff like that, but we need to step away from social media and stuff, so it's got a moral to it, and I think it does it very well. And I think it's because like sort of Kim was saying, it's the technology is pretty much consistent with what we've got just now, but it wasn't over reliant on that. There was still a very human story behind. I mean, you've got the whole sort of thing that the social media company is leaps and bounds ahead of the police in terms of finding out everything that's going on. So, I mean, which is probably true as well, but I thought it all hinges on Andrew's performance, and I thought it was magnificent. And yeah, it was definitely the best episode of the series for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I felt like it would have been a brilliant 30-minute episode. I just thought it was so long that it sort of wore its out its welcome quite quickly. I think it's redeemed very much by that last 15 minutes where kind of Topher Grace is getting a bit of a reputation at the moment of coming in sort of the third act as sort of the mysterious, much hyped person behind the scenes, as he did with sort of Black Klansman. So I thought he was excellent in this, but sort of that whole build up to sort of the confrontation and the phone call, I was like, oh, come on, just get on with it. And then I felt like the character was a dick when it sort of the revelation came out about what he'd been doing, what had happened. But I just sort of felt very little sympathy and empathy for the character and his plight, and I just thought it was sort of like it really lost its impact. And I think for me it was the weakest of the series. It was just like, I don't think this kind of this kind of moral or story, whatever, needs to be 67 minutes. Like, we get it. It could have been a really impactful 30 minutes, but I just don't know why it was as long as it was. For me personally, it was a disappointment. So
yeah, I think for me personally, I thought it managed to sustain the tension and the build up to the sort of release moment at the end.
It reminded me of the sort of Simpsons episode where sort of it's Poochie coming on the show for the first time, and I'm sitting there like Milhouse, like, when do they get into the fireworks factory? It's like, come on, just get on with it. Like, this was just like, this is what the season felt like for me. Of like, I felt like, when are they getting to the firework factory? This entire series, like with the long episodes and things being drawn out, I just feel like, I'm like, come on, get to it. I know the point you're making it, and it's just losing its impact by the longer you're dragging it out. And yeah, it was just a disappointment one for me. But it comes to
no, I think that basically any time that Andrew Scott's off screen, people should be asking, where's Poochie? That's what they should be doing. Not getting to the firework factory, they should be asking, where's Poochie?
Absolutely. So, talking of kind of, probably this is the one that's got the most hype going in, and that was Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. So, a lonely teenager yearns to connect with her favourite pop star, played by Miley Cyrus, whose charmed existence isn't quite as rosy as it appears. So, Kim, are you a Miley Cyrus fan, and what did you make of her performance in this episode?
I am a Miley Cyrus fan. I know the entire dance to the Hoedown Throwdown, and I have no shame about that. I thought she was really good in this episode. I don't have anything really bad to say about her. I don't think I really liked it. Like, I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about how it was amazing and it was like their favourite episode, and I'm just not really sure why. Like, I thought it was a bit, I don't know, I thought there was too many like layers of stuff. She was like, oh, I write songs in my dreams, and then I have this really angsty notebook and everything, and like, if she was keeping pills to have evidence against her aunt, surely like 12 would have been enough, not like an entire box full. I don't know why she didn't just like go for that earlier. It just felt like so many layers of stuff that, I know it's Black Mirror, but I'm gonna say, like, that just felt quite unbelievable, really. Like the whole kids on bikes mentality of the kids rescuing the day and stuff. I wasn't really sold on it, which I was quite sad about, because I thought it was going to be quite cool having Miley Cyrus in it, but I didn't really like this one.
Would you buy an Ashley 2?
No, because she felt very much it was very much just like, felt like she was mining data from the kids, like, oh, what are your parents' names and what do they like and what do you do at school? It just felt like a total like marketing activity, and it just quite annoying. And maybe buy one that had full Miley Cyrus personality, that like swore and made jokes and stuff. She was quite cool, but yeah, not the original one. She was just a bit annoying.
So what about you, Dallas? You're sort of in your mid to late 30s. Are you a Miley Cyrus fan, or are you a secret Miley Cyrus fan?
I've heard Wrecking Ball. I know that she was once called Hannah Montana. I think I'm more familiar with her father, who did Achy Breaky Heart, a classic from the early 90s. But I mean, I thought she was good in this, actually. I thought she's got great potential as an actress. I think she'll probably end up doing a lot more in terms of movies and TV shows, I think. But yeah, I know for me, this was maybe the weakest one as well. I thought there was some good ideas potentially in it, but I think this is one where it sort of drags it. And I mean, the Ashley 2 essentially is just like a glorified Furby, if anyone remembers Furbies from the mid to late 90s as well. And I was wondering where it was going. I thought, oh, are they going to have to transplant the chip from the doll into her head once she's in a coma and stuff like that because she's brain dead or something? I was wondering where it was going, and I think the ending was a bit slightly on the sort of cheesy sort of, Hollywood blockbustery sort of race against time sort of thing. And yeah, it was the most sort of probably definitely the most Americanized of the episodes I think we've seen so far, and maybe that was where the disconnect was for me, I think. So
yeah, I didn't mind this one that much. I thought it was a bit middle of the road, really, but I kind of liked Miley Cyrus. I thought she was fine in it, but I didn't. I thought the young girls were quite good, and I sort of got into this episode if I sort of thought of it as like sort of an 80s 90s throwback. Like if I was a young kid, I probably would have enjoyed watching this sort of episode, sort of like, oh, they're kind of breaking into the house, like, oh, it's so funny, they're pretending to be rat control people and things like that. You think, oh, it's kind of funny, but it's not really adult entertainment as such. And it was sort of one of these ones like, oh my god, the supervillain, she's mining songs from her dreams and stuff, and like it probably plays well to a really young teen audience. So I suppose Black Mirror can be a different show to different people, and I felt that one was very much aimed at that crowd, and I enjoyed it fine enough. Again, it was another quite a long one where it's like, yeah, I sort of get what you're telling me, but it was losing sort of that message as it sort of kept getting dragged out longer and longer. And yeah, it was just a nice enough sort of teen adventure, comedy and stuff. I've seen some of these tropes a bit before, but yeah, it was fine. The dad, oh, he's so funny because he's sort of really passionate about rent control. But yeah, it didn't feel like sort of anything particularly special or edgy or unique. It was just like a bit tired, it felt like. But I thought Miley Cyrus was fine, and yeah, I know Wrecking Ball and the song that they did a bit of a cover of at the end, Assassination Nation. That's about it for me, and I'm sure she'll go on to star in some other things. But yeah, it was sort of a weekend to sort of a weak season for me.
Yeah, no, I mean the point that it lost Lucy was when they got into the house pretending to be the sort of rat catchers, and it's like when he goes, oh, I need the toilet, can I go? And he's like, he just leaves her, he just says, oh yeah, it's just on the right. It's like my wife was like, that would never happen. He never let her go alone and stuff like that. So I mean, the suspension of disbelief, there's the technology and stuff like that, but it was like a basic plot point like that. Was when sort of she checked out. Although she did like the song at the end, and she was like, oh, why do I like that song? It seems a really good song. Why? And it turns out that Trent Reznor, I think, had written the music for it. So that was an interesting surprise at the end to find that out as well.
Yeah, I had heard sort of some of it was going to be Nine Inch Nails music, and I like how they managed to turn like a Nine Inch Nails song and turn it into a really inspirational pop number. I thought that was a cracker, to be honest. Yeah. What did you think, Kim? Like, you love your sort of music. What did you make of sort of the Miley Cyrus take on sort of a Nine Inch Nails song? Is it going to be a song that you're going to be singing in the car? What do you think? Yeah,
I thought it was quite good. I'm always a fan of that kind of pop bordering on rock stuff like Avril Lavigne and Ashley Simpson. So I think if Miley Cyrus released slightly heavier stuff like that in real life, I would be all over it. So I had no problem with that side of it.
So, kind of overall, what do you kind of think of this sort of season as a whole? Is it sort of in the top tier? Is it something that gets you excited for more Black Mirror? Or do you think it's sort of had its day? What's your feeling, Kim?
I think it's hard because it was such a short season. I feel like most seasons have a couple of episodes that I'm not super keen on, whether it's just they're a bit too like depressing or they're just not very good. And I think in this one, the only one I really liked and really had strong feelings about was Striking Vipers, I think. So I feel like if it had been a longer season, if it had like 6 or 7 episodes like they kind of usually do, there might have been like a better mix. But because it was only the 3 and there was only one that I like really enjoyed, I felt like it was quite weak. And I think as well, because I have just binged every single episode, I was kind of hoping for something amazing because I've just watched all the good ones together as well as the bad. So it did feel a bit weak, but I think that they always come up with like interesting concepts, whether I personally like them or not. So it does always leave me excited for the like what they're going to do in future seasons. I would just prefer. Hopefully next season I'll have more episodes because they won't have done something big like Bandersnatch that clearly took up a lot of their time and ideas.
What about for yourself, Dallas? How do you sort of compare this season?
I think that this one is probably one of the weaker sort of seasons overall. Actually, probably the weakest season, sort of looking back on all of them. For me, the best season was season 3, so that was the first sort of season on Netflix. I think that was overall the strongest one in terms of episode quality and stuff like that. So it's taken a bit of a dip, but I think like Kim says, if there was maybe slightly more episodes, you can sort of forgive them for the odd sort of low quality one. If there's like something with a huge high like that you get, it sort of balances out a bit more. But I think there's no end to Black Mirror. I think with technology advancing all the time, I don't think there's going to be any sort of shortage of material that you can mine to create something out of. So I'm still keen to see more from them. I think it'll depend on the next season whether or not it will continue after that. I think it will depend on getting some really good quality episodes and writing out of that, I think.
Yeah, so kind of what are some of your favourite Black Mirror episodes? If the season isn't the greatest one in the world, if you were recommending some episodes that you love to other people, what episodes would you pick? Dallas?
Okay, so my sort of top 3 are sort of in third place. It was White Bear. This is the one with Lenora Critchlow, who sort of wakes up and sort of no memory of what's happened, and she finds out she's being chased by all these people in masks and stuff like that. And then because it's Black Mirror, there's always a twist, and it turns out that she's basically on some sort of televised game show where she'd committed a murder of a child, and she basically gets her brain wiped every day and then put back into this thing where she's tortured and terrorized and stuff like that. She's actually hypnotized by Darren Brown of all people. So that for me was just like one of those sort of kicking of an endings, and I just love that one. Number 2 is Playtest, the one which had a much worse ending in terms of video games, that stars Wyatt Russell with a lovely sort of hark back to the great sort of spider head moment in The Thing as well. And it's probably the most horrific and terrifying episode of Black Mirror, I think, in terms of visuals and also what can happen. But then surprisingly, my favourite episode is probably the sweetest and nicest one. It's San Junipero, which I thought was just a lovely, lovely love story. And yeah, I think it's Black Mirror at its finest, I think, for me, that one anyway.
What about for yourself, Kim? What is your kind of top episodes? You've just binged it. Can you pull them apart in your head, or is it all just a big mush?
I think it's quite easy to pull them apart because they're there's always some different threat in all of them. But my third one is actually Playtest as well. I am terrified of spiders, and I watched this at work on my lunch break, and there's 2 bits with the spiders, but there's one bit with a spider where I jumped so high I smashed my knee off the desk and knocked every single thing on my desk over because I got such a fright. So I think the fact of how scary that one was, it definitely ranks up there for me. And you're right, it is a really bleak ending. Like, you do not feel good after that one. My second one is the USS Callister, which is like it kind of follows this guy who runs like a computer game company, where you can like immerse yourself in the games, like Striking Vipers. I actually read somewhere that I think they mention it's the same company, but I'm not sure of that. But you sort of start off on his side because he's like a geek and he fancies this girl that starts, and he's really cute, and then it turns out he's absolutely horrible, and he clones all his staff into the game, and then he can like murder them and turn them into monsters, and he's just horrible. And it's such a good story. It's scary and it's tense, and it's got a quite satisfying ending, and I really liked it. And I don't think you saw where it was going when it happened, so I did like that one. And then my top one is Hang the DJ, which is a story about people go into this like dating thing where they get assigned a date, and they get assigned like a timeline for how long they stay with that person. So this guy and girl meet, and I think they're only supposed to be together for like a day, and then they go off and they get assigned to other relationships where they're kind of stuck unhappily for like years, and then they come back and meet each other, and then it's just kind of them falling in love and kind of deciding to rebel against the system rather than stick with the kind of final person they're supposed to get assigned to. And it's, again, I feel like it's quite like Striking Vipers in that it's quite like scary, intense, and technology's evil the whole way through, but the ending is really lovely, and it will get the Smith song Panic stuck in your head forever. So yeah, no, that's my favourite one.
Yeah, that's a real great episode. Sort of my top three, I go with San Juniper as well. I was kind of lucky enough a few years ago to go to like sort of a talk where Charlie Brooker was talking about sort of writing and creating Black Mirror, and they talked about sort of making this episode, and it sort of feels like the first one in sort of the timeline of their episodes where it feels very positive and like you're waiting for the worst to happen or something like that, and it doesn't come through. You actually get this really positive ending, and I really liked that. Sort of followed up by that Shut Up and Dance. I loved the twist in this episode where you're like, oh my god, I feel so sorry for this kid, but where's it kind of going to go? Like, I think I kind of get the message, where sort of this season, sort of the twist and message, it all feels well telegraphed. We know where it's sort of going to go. Whereas this, it really kind of hooks you, and you think it's all going to be about, yeah, internet blackmail, you know. You feel for the kid. You're like, just tell people you were wanking. It's not the end of the world. It'll be all forgotten about. And then it's sort of the twist at the end is that he'd obviously been downloading child pornography, and it was like, oh, that's really dark. And I loved that. I thought it was such a clever twist, and it really sucks you in as a audience member, because you're thinking like it's going one way, and then it just completely slaps you in the other direction.
Yeah, that's one of my wife's favourite ones as well. I asked her what are her favourite Black Mirror ones, and then Netflix, you could do this because it's very difficult to remember the actual names, so she basically described them as Friends episodes. So her top three were the David Cameron one, so you basically, that basically gives that one away. Her second one was Shut Up and Dance, which she called the pedo one.
Very true.
The one with the pedo. And then her third favourite one was the one with the guy from Happy Days' daughter. So I think that was Nosedive, which starred Bryce Dallas Howard, which had the social media app that basically gave you a ranking. Then the higher the ranking, the better quality of life you'd be able to get. You get more access to stuff. And then with Charlie Brooker being Charlie Brooker, you know, he got the David Cameron one right, pretty much spot on. And also apparently China were going to introduce some sort of thing on social media where basically you were being ranked by your social media profiles and stuff like that. So Charlie Brooker, finger on the pulse as always.
Yeah, like my number one episode is the David Cameron one, and I always remembered when the news broke that David Cameron had put his penis in a pig's mouth. First time we've discussed this on Filibuster. When I was in a San Francisco shopping mall at the time, and my girlfriend was doing some shopping, and I was just sat there, and it just clicked into the Wi-Fi, and the story was breaking, and I think I was the same as probably most people that had seen Black Mirror, and it was like, oh yeah, so this is just like Black Mirror, and everyone sort of like, I think was tweeting Charlie Brooker, he's like, guys, honestly, I did not know this thing had happened, and it was just quite funny to watch that unravel in real time. And I don't know what it was like for you, Kim, when, as someone that's maybe watched this episode for the first time well after sort of the David Cameron debacles happened, what was it like for you to watch that episode and think, oh yeah, like our Prime Minister actually has kind of done that.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Prime Minister in Black Mirror had like a legitimate reason to do it. Like, at least he's doing it for quite a noble reason, not just some weird like initiation thing at school. So, yeah, I think the truth's actually weirder than the Black Mirror episode in this case.
I once had my wet cement moment, as another wee Simpson reference for you today, where I was at an Isle of Dogs exhibit in London last year, and I looked up and David Cameron was there, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to say? This is my moment to like finally say something to him. I hate this guy. And I remember just sort of passing by him as he was sort of looking at the robot dog part, and I just went, I could have called him a pig fucker or something like that, but in reality I just passed by and went, thanks for ruining the country, and then ran off. I should have gone for the pig option. I totally blew it. So kind of that brings us to sort of the end of our Black Mirror kind of conversation, but as if we haven't recommended enough Black Mirror episodes and film festivals, we'll sort of do our weekly thing of recommending 52 films by women, so a film that you can watch a week and hit 52 at the end of the year. So I think we're nearly at 52 recommendations overall, and we're only halfway there. So Dallas, what is your film by woman recommendation this week?
Well, I'm going to go for one which I'm not sure you might have also picked it as well, but I guess we'll see. I watched it this weekend, and it would be Late Night. Is that going to be your pick for this week?
Nope, I have seen it and thought it was okay, but yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, that's good. So this is directed by Nisha Ganatri, and it's written by Mindy Kaling, also starring Mindy Kaling and Emma Thompson. And it's the story of a woman who gets a job on the writing staff of a late night talk show, initially as a minority pick, that basically they need a woman on there to get a woman's point of view because the ratings are in a slump, and Emma Thompson is the host is going to lose her job, and basically they want to try and turn it all around. And of course it basically sort of follows that sort of Devil Wears Prada thing where she's tough and cold and heartless and slags off everyone, and initially they don't get on, but of course they'll begin to soften, and then it'll get all turned out right in the end. And it was just nice to see sort of a different sort of side, lots of representation for women in terms of the writing, acting, directing. There was some good quality gags, great performances, Emma Thompson as always, and it was just nice to see that sort of side. I mean, the story is very sort of generic. You can basically tell exactly how it's going to go, but it was just great to see that sort of point of view put across. So yeah, that's my pick for this week.
What about for yourself, Kim? What have you gone for this week?
Well, I am currently writing a thing just now about dads in horror films because it's Father's Day this week. So I thought I would go with one of the ones I've been writing about, which is The Babadook, which came out in 2014. It is directed by Jennifer Kent, and it is the story of Amelia. Her husband died in a car crash while he was driving her to the hospital to give birth to their son Samuel, and this kid is possibly the most annoying kid that you've ever seen in a film. Like, I very rarely watch films and hope that the kid dies, but I hope that the kid died in The Babadook. He is so annoying, but he starts like acting out and being really like weird, and he finds this pop-up book outside the house one day called Mr. Babadook, which has this terrifying creature in it called the Babadook that wears like a top hat and a big long black coat and just looks really creepy. And it's really good because it's it's scary, the creature is scary, but the whole story is more about how this mother and the son have been dealing with the grief of like the dad dying, and how the mother's kind of been projecting things onto the son because she kind of feels like it was his fault, because obviously she was getting driven to the hospital to give birth to him when her husband died. And it's just, I always think horror that's sort of, I mean, it is a bit weird because it's about an actual monster, but it is rooted in like real life and like grief and emotions and things. And I think it's just a really interesting, and it is scary, but yeah, it's just a really cool story. And yeah, I would highly recommend it, though you will get the rhyming passages from the book stuck in your head for days after you watch the film, so that's just a warning before you go in.
So not just a film by a woman there that you've put forward, but it's an LGBT icon in the form of the Babadook. Yeah. How the hell that happened, I do not know. I'm not sure, but you can buy a Pride version of the Blu-ray just now where it's like a rainbow cover, because he has become such a like, yeah, an LGBT icon. It's very weird. I don't know how it's happened, but people are embracing it, so I'm down with it.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic film. Essie Davis, I think, gives one of the... I thought she should have been nominated for an Oscar for her performance. It was like before Toni Collette, I think it's like the best female performance in a horror movie for a long, long time. And I actually have a copy of the Babadook pop-up book. It sits in a case, a locked case, but just in case anything happens. But yeah, no, I do own a copy of the Babadook. So.
And I've kind of gone for sort of the anti-Black Mirror one here. So I've gone for Into the Forest by Patricia Rosemary. So a forthcoming movie and discussion in our A24 movie podcast. And this one is about a massive power outage and two sisters, played by Ellen Page and Evan Rachel Wood, learn to survive on their own in their isolated woodland home. So definitely one worth checking out. You can rent on Amazon Prime. And if you're sick and tired of technology and want to get away from it after Black Mirror, Into the Forest might be the perfect choice. So obviously we will be back next week where we'll be talking about Killing Eve season 1 and season 2, but if people wanted to get in touch with you, talk about the Babadook or Black Mirror or Pigs, where could people find you online, Kim?
You can get me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at WickedSister69. I write for a website called That's Not Current. And yeah, this week on Father's Day, my massive Fathers in Horror post will be going live. So if you're interested in that and you want to tell me all the films I forgot to write about, then you can let me know.
That doesn't sound like the internet at all. Dallas, if people wanted to tell you all the films that all the Black Mirror episodes that you missed out, where could people find you online?
They can find me on Twitter at @champcelluloid, and during the film festival you'll be able to catch me on Nerd Party, and then also at Flick Feast where I'll be writing up some reviews of the films that we see as well.
And you can find me on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo. So until next time, thanks for listening on your phones and Apple devices and computers, and thanks for not being put off by Black Mirror and checking us out. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.